It's 7 o'clock right now.
Yes, it is. 5 o'clock somewhere.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Jersey City Council meeting August 7th, 2024. Jersey City Hall. This council meeting is now in session at 7 p.m. Please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
All right, we'll start with the roll call. Councilwoman Geddes.
Here.
Councilwoman Wright.
Here.
Council President Wright.
Here.
Mayor is here and we disappeared. Where's Jessica? Oh, the rest of them.
Oh,
Okay.
car. Yeah.
He forgot his packet in the car.
Gotcha. I have not heard from Mr. Gould today, not either.
He does work on problems.
Yes. And Councilman Geddes.
Sorry, President.
Present. All right, we're missing one, but we do have a full quorum, so we will continue. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda that we need to know of? None? If not, we're going to continue with public comment on non-agenda items. The city council values and welcomes public input on matters of city concern. Please address the council as a whole rather than the individual council members. The council may direct staff to resolve the issue or schedule the matter for further council discussion. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person with an optional 2 minutes for council questions and answers. If you wish to address the council, please come forward and identify yourself with name and address for the record. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Becky Newton. I live at 765 3rd Street. It's down the road. And I have 2 concerns. As a community, I've lived in our community for 35 years. I love our community, but 2 things. Somebody's going to get hurt with the speakers on 3rd Street. It's getting to the point where we actually had the other morning I was out with my dogs, I went to work, and there was a Amazon tractor trailer that came through doing about 50 on our street. And so it is a concern because there are little kids that live across the street from me. They roll balls out in the street and they don't stop. The other thing is the fireworks. We had an incident 2 weeks ago, and I would like to commend Officer Navarro for handling it. He did a very nice job, and I appreciated his input. It could have been a lot worse. It really could have. We could have lost that whole block of as dry as it was. And when I was up there talking with the officer, I noticed that in that field, there were also like 3 or 4 already burned. So it wasn't the first time. So as a city, I think that we need to do a better job and address the safety of our citizens. I walk my dogs every night, and last night I came up past the school and around, so I was walking up past here, and we were at the cross. There's no crosswalk for the cross, but they didn't even slow. I was standing there waiting across the street and nobody stood. They just. So like I said, as a community, that's all I have.
I really appreciate that. Actually, right after the fire, police chief, myself, Rick, city manager, we were discussing it, and we all are in agreement we need to start looking at cracking down on the ordinances a bit more, getting back into the routine that we had before. We were slowing down the speeders. It was happening. You know, we need to get back on that, make the city safer for everyone.
if they would like to back into my driveway, I would more than love to have them just back into my driveway and sit down.
I have a question about speeders, like, the city makes money off of that when we hand out tickets, correct?
Well, there's a percentage of it, like when the first one, so.
Is there a quota that they have to get or anything, like the state police where you see them on the highways or freeways or whatnot? No?
There's no quotas at all for police anywhere within the state.
Oh,
That
okay.
would be a violation of
Good
it.
answer.
I have one question. Are you noticing mostly Amazon trucks? Is it something?
Everybody, there was actually in Marion County. I think it was like not a utility worker, but they were driving through and they were cooking. And so, I mean, it's not just Amazon, but I mean, they come through like it's a racetrack. And like I said, I worry because we have little kids across the street and I have pets and I worry about my animals.
I was actually bringing this up a little bit when we did police report. I mean, in the last 2 weeks, we had a fatality over there on that road. And then on my drive in here, just to get here on the way past the fire station, there's Officer Navarro's there right now because of the car in the ditch. The traffic on that area has gotten worse, and it's going to continue to get worse the more that place gets populated. And I'll probably have to discuss it more during the report. It's definitely a concern.
Yes, I was gonna mention that too. I had it in my notes, the police and then crosswalks in Jervis, definitely. I know there's some concern about between the city market and the post office, and then anywhere else that we could possibly put in crosswalks would be a good idea too. I know that we had a huge population of people traveling through Jervis now because of Amazon. So like this is our cutoff to go through to work. So that's something that we should definitely look into. How much more commute is coming through town.
And this is through the grapevine, so please correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding was when Amazon got put in there, the agreement was they were not going to drop it, they were supposed to use. So the fact that just an Amazon truck came through, that's the first I've heard of
That was
it.
a tractor trailer.
Yeah,
It was
that's
a big one.
really concerning, because my understanding was they're not allowed to come through here. Yeah,
Unfortunately,
you are on the council.
Sorry.
unfortunately, they are allowed because it's a county road. That's the problem. They were supposed to be coming through here. They're supposed to use the main roads, but they still do stunts and still come through here.
The agreement, sorry, because I was going to talk about it too. So I'm Mickey Wagner, Mayor's wife, 166 East Hemlock Drive. I also was going to talk about the 2 crosswalks and the traffic. One of the things, when I was on council, and I've only been off 2 years, was that when Amazon came in, the arrangement that they had so that their trucks would not come through Jervis was that they were, so you know how when you're coming in town on Butteville, they have their lot, and then behind, on the other side of them is Hillier's Ford. Well, they were supposed to have a third way there, and that's where the majority of their employees were told to come through to not cause a lot of traffic. That's also where the bay routes were supposed to go through. They're also parking their what do you call them, the cabins, the main part of the truck. They're just parking them on the side of the road as well. And that's a big,
Yeah, they're basically not forced.
so, but they were not supposed to be. That wasn't the agreement that they
I
made.
think I don't know how legally binding can be towards the employees, because if it's their trucks, that's actually them, and that's, I don't know if we want to look into, but if there's some kind of agreement they made on paper, I would love to see that.
The other thing was I had, because I was on council, a lot of folks know me, a lot of people come to me confidentially. Elizabeth Gallimore, whose father was hit and eventually passed away out here. She had stated that that was not the first time that he had almost been hit. She had seen people pulling children out of that crosswalk as well. I know that that's a county road as well as 3rd and Douglas. But if there's a way that maybe we can reach out to the county and at least put something out to our community, letting them know, hey, these are not roads that we can do this, make these changes to. but we are in connect with the county and trying to, do something, especially because of the fatalities or fatality at this point. But yeah, if that could be done, that would be.
I second that. I mean, this is selfish, but my brother-in-law travels down the road on a tricycle. And every day I see him riding down the road, I'm scared. Hicks, there's no elbow, push over.
Yeah, the problem that I've noticed in talking to some other people, the fact that there was no written agreement for it. It was all verbal, all agreed upon by phone calls and everything. So nothing was written, so it's nothing like we're able to hold them to something right now. So that was one issue. The other issue again is the county and state have already said it's a county road. We can't control the road itself. So anybody is allowed to use that. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. I mean, is there a way we can reach out to the county and see if they can put a load limit, maybe for, heavy trucks or something like that? I'm not aware of that, but I know the county's not very forthcoming in assisting us with anything fast forward.
I feel like this should be rolled into our land use work session.
Possibly, but I also feel like if we already control what we can control, right? So we can't tell the county what to do. We can make recommendations and requests. We can have more law enforcement for more service. That's what we can do. And possibly, I'm speaking on hand here. Yes, but like, if we are concerned about people speaking down there, if we have more of a presence there, that could possibly.
Would the flashing lights on the signs on either side of the road also help? I mean, no, you don't think so? Okay. And I know that marked and unmarked crosswalks, like any street intersection, is considered a crosswalk, so I didn't,
I just wondered if maybe putting just couple now for the system. I won't do it, but just something that says, stop, because people don't look. And on quite a few of our corners, unfortunately, I mean, even where we live on Hemlock, those of you that were at National Night Out, you see there are trees and there are cars parked right up to the corner. So when you're taking a left out of a lot of our streets, if there's a truck or a van, you cannot see, and you literally are inching out to be able to.
oh, one other thing is there's not a lot of speed signs like in the town on, I know residentials are supposed to be 25, right? 25 feet.
Yeah.
Oh, you got that wrong. The signs out there, so.
There's very few out.
Yeah. And even the school, the ones for the school are backwards. Like it ends where it should begin and it begins where it should end.
Which side?
I'm coming in on,
I think it's over there. It says school zone starts where it actually stops.
yeah,
Okay. And it runs with the backwards.
they are. Oh, this is a checkerboard.
Checkerboard
Yeah.
and this road.
Is it the same as that road, but the other back?
Or like, it would be the right, it'd be not backwards, was facing the other direction, because it's facing the direction it's at.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
Anyway.
Which is the county's sign.
Oh.
Yeah, if it's something that we can. Yep, I have to say it.
I think my biggest thing, is, I think we have a very real problem. And we can talk about what the county isn't going to do, but we need to find a solution for us.
Yeah, like how much trouble would we get into if we go against the county?
Enough to not do it.
Oh. Okay. But would it be worth it because people were dying? Like, and what is the likelihood of them actually coming in and being like, you don't know, do you?
I don't think,
I don't know.
from when I went to the lock training, we should reach out to our local legislative representative as well.
And they might be able to put pressure on them.
Bring it in.
For
We
anybody
just
else?
have to do something. Yeah, I mean, I hate Facebook, but I do peruse it sometimes, and there's been some concern voiced, and I think they're in the sports. So we need to make a movement instead of just saying, yeah,
Awesome.
kind of.
It was suggested that we invite Leslie for a tour, that they enjoy tours of cities. That's an idea we can look at.
Rick, would you like to reach out to them or myself? Invite for a tour? And also, I agree, yes, the fireworks is a big thing too, like you said, I definitely understand that. Normally, we've been here for many years ourselves, and I understand 2 days before the 4th of July, I'm saying, I've seen it, I've heard it 2 days after is one thing, but we're getting to 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks back.
It's not in the morning. It's
No.
ridiculous.
No, it's only the ordinance is being held, but I'm saying from history, fireworks starts a day or two early, ends a day or two after, but lately it's been crazy.
I actually had an incident when my husband was in the hospital and Marion County actually got called out. They said it was fireworks. I'm familiar with flashbangs and these were flashbangs because it was bright light white and it lit up my bedroom. And so, and it was loud. It was like 1:30 in the morning.
So what is there that we can do about maybe getting a petition and banning all fireworks in town? Even the legal ones, except for what the city does on the 4th of July? Then it'd be a lot easier to issue citations if they're completely banned. Because it takes one boom and my dog is so upset. And I know I'm not the only one. And every night he's hiding under the bed shaking.
Is there a way to compromise? Like, I get the 4th of July is really big and New Year's is really big. So we have 2 holidays.
But the 4th of July was over 3 hours. I get up at
Yes.
3:30 in the morning. I have been on foot confronting people. I had to confront a group of intoxicated gentlemen over here because there was no police cars at City Hall, and you could see there's no police cars at City Hall. And they say, get over it. Everybody does it in Jervis. They said, if you're so tired, we'll call you an Uber. Why don't you try earplugs? I said, they're illegal. Oh, they are? We're just trying to have a good time. And it was right over here. A lot of the big offenders is Ivy Woods, and they have the big booms.
Yes. Yes, they do.
The other day, it was 7th and Alder. They had the big booms, and I know there's fields down there. It's just every night they'll do one, 10 minutes later, they'll do another. And because they don't want to be caught. But I don't know what they get out of this.
I guess I want to make sure I understand you correctly. First of all, I 100% agree with you, like launching on holiday days, even on holidays late in the night is crazy disrespectful. And it shouldn't happen. And I do know some of my neighbors have been offenders, and we've had conversations about that. I understand this will happen next year. Are you saying that even on the 4th of July, you want 0 fireworks for non-city? Or we should do it with
The city display is fine. That's timed. You know what's gonna happen. You can medicate your pets. But being they won't adhere to the rules or the law, I think they have to be banned. Because they're already illegal.
In the legal fireworks, just because some participants can't go to the city-wide one. Just for a personal example, my son had disabilities and we couldn't make it to the city one. It was a little much for him, but he really enjoyed just seeing the little fireworks in front of our house. So I feel like that would be a little bit of a push to ban even the legal ones.
There's a difference between the ones that are legal and the mortars.
Agreed.
Because, I mean, the fire 2 weeks ago, the story that the poor officer got, and ended up bad for him, was that it was the power line. Well, I work in telecommunications, and we run our wires are 3 foot below power, and they were saying it was touching the lower pole, and there's no electricity that runs through those lines.
Yeah, I 100% agree with the legal one shouldn't be happening. I'm somewhat in agreement with the council president here, in the sense that it's again selfish, but like I have small kids who like to collect sparklers and little round things, and I want them to be able to do that. That's what my childhood was like during the 4th of July. But I do think the mortars are.
Have you stopped the mortars? I mean, because there's no consequences.
Right, no, that's one of the point, I think to your point is, and I think I heard this from the mayor as well, is that we need more enforcement on the things that are illegal.
Is it also a scheduling issue? Because I notice if it gets dark, we don't tend to see any police officers. And that's when they happen.
Sort of also like the, the noise variance. The noise variance is 10 o'clock in Jeremy's.
Yep.
And you get parties that are going all night long.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, 100% agree with both of you, that we need better enforcement of ordinances for sure. I'm sure that was, that comes up to the heart.
This New Year's Eve is gonna be California. I mean, it's not even mortars, it's gunshots. You can hear it.
Can you look at maybe a way for citizens to report these items? Like I know Portland did a report line where
That's something we would need to do and get that out so that maybe, but nobody wants to snitch on the neighbors.
well, and that's what I would be on this.
You can also report anonymously too. It doesn't have to be your name. You can-
Maybe have a flyer put out a week before the 4th of July saying this is the consequences if you're caught lighting these up and we will be citing people,
Yeah, communication will go along with it.
I mean, and have it at, maybe drop it off at each house so that they do know it's gonna happen.
With fair warning and citation. I mean, that's what happens when a dog is out, right? We give fair warning and then the second time, third time, the dog gets out. Where was the citation? I mean, I got threatened, my dog got out twice and I was like, oh, wait, third time in trouble, one, you did not got nonsense.
But a lot of people was like, oh, Jervis, everybody does it, so
Yeah, that's like the starting, it's we need to fix that, I agree.
it's never been this bad.
This year's definitely been the worst, I'd say, after the 4th of July.
Last night there was one.
Last year, there was a few here and there, but this year definitely.
Actually, there was two.
Two?
Right, because I have a 6-month-old pup. And she does not like big sounds, and she's great. And that was like 3 this morning.
Concur with all of it.
Just something needs to be done.
And I think as a community, I think that we all need to work together.
We need to get the people in here to also spread the word to more people to know what's going on, what's happening, and that we're gonna be cracking down on these ordinance violations. That'd be the big thing. I don't know if we could post it on the front doors of some places and
More than that.
I don't know, but like I'm just
Well,
trying
just
to,
getting it started.
just getting something started.
Yeah.
It used to be that if you saw them at a location, you physically saw them, lighting them, and you could give the address that they could go out. But if you don't see a person doing them and you just see the residue, you can't do anything about it because there's no burden, no proof. But the problem is, and has always been in Jervis, is that there are always those people on bicycles or with cell phones, and as soon as they see anything with red and blue lights or they will.
Get a spotter though.
So
Yeah.
the fire 2 weeks ago, I was standing speaking with my neighbor. And I actually saw the firework over. I have a big shop in my backyard. My backyard is my shop. And it has a probably 50-foot eave, and you could see the sparkles over my roof.
What is there you can do about illegal fires too?
They're pretty off agenda in our this procedure. And I know that it's important to engage with people, but it's also pretty unproductive. So we could reschedule a work session if we want to talk about this further, but 30 minutes at the beginning of our most of the meeting is fine.
That being said, regardless, I really want to say thank you for bringing it to the attention. I do think what you're bringing up is something that needs to be addressed. It's something that we have to address.
Correct.
And anytime the media comes in and says something, I feel like, let's say, you may find some ideas. I'm sure we'll partner with both our city manager and our chief and see what we can do, because it's not okay.
Thank you. Well, we still have a few more minutes. Does anybody else would like to come forward and talk on public comment? The online, I'm seeing no hands up. Okay, we will continue then on to the next item. Next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. We have the city council meeting for July 10, 2025, city council special meeting July 16th, 2025, 6 p.m. and the city council work session July 16th, 2025 for 7 p.m. Did the council get a chance to review the packets and verify everything?
I think there was one backwards, if I'm correct on that. After the consent calendar B, it said CP Wright moved to approve consent calendar. And that, is that right? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Is it there? Oh, yeah, yeah.
No, that's right, that's correct. I just read it backwards.
Okay.
Any other discussion with council on these? Not seeing any. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the city council meeting for July 10th, 2025, the city council special meeting July 16th, 2025, and the work session for July 16th, 2025.
We have a motion and a second. Let's take a vote. All those approve, say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? All approved. Thank you very much. On the agenda, there's nothing for old business listed, so we'll get directly to new business. First item on the agenda is Resolution 25-011. Resolution to change the type of employee contributions for all of City of Juris employees to employer-paid pre-tax EPPT contributions to be deemed to pick up for purposes of the Internal Revenue Code Section 414H2. Rick, do you have anything to state on this?
Mr. Mayor and Council, there is a resolution 25011 before you. In order to change the payment methods, we're actually changing our agreement with PERS. Since we're changing our agreement with PERS, it requires a resolution. What this resolution does is establish consistency as to providing the employee paying side of PERS for all of our employees rather than for some of our employees. So in lieu of a COLA, a cost of living increase this July, what was discussed with staff and all agreed to was that there would not be a COLA this year, but that we would change the process of payment for PERS to be a city debt pay PERS. This does a couple things. One, it means that the money that goes to PERS that employees pay isn't taxed. Right now, for some of our employees that pay for their PERS, it's out of their compensation, so they pay the taxes on it, and it goes to PERS. The other thing it does is make it very more, let's get my English correct here, I think Bill Woodburn. What it does is make it consistent. Currently, previously, the city paid the employee side of PERS for 3 employees. We paid increases to employees when they needed to start contributing to PERS in 2 cases, but not in the most recent hire. So quite honestly, the city's been all over the map as it relates to how it funds and manages the payment of the employee 6% side of paying PERS. This resolution more or less changes city policy and is done this year in place of a COLA, in which the city pays the 6% of what is called the employee side of PERS, which 97% of every other city that we compete against for recruiting already does pay. So this is also catching us up with the Joneses per se. So this has sort of a threefold purpose as it relates to resolving our COLA issue, making it consistent for PERS, and allowing the retirement funds to be paid pre-tax. I'm sure our wise legal counsel can provide you legal perspectives as it relates to this, but I requested this resolution. He reviewed it as it relates to a way to be more consistent with us giving the same benefits to all of our city employees. You have to answer questions, but if you want to get into legal stuff, we'll be looking across the aisle.
To the chief.
Put a lawyer on TV, that's all.
Now, was I correct in also reading that we actually almost lost an employee we were trying to hire because we didn't have that 6% first?
That our newest employee initially declined the position since we were not paying that.
Are we safe to say that this should help retain current employees as well?
It will. It is the standard. It is the standard within the state.
Is there any evidence of why it wasn't standard before? I'm just curious. It was all over the place. Sounds interesting.
I do not know.
What is the financial side impact on us? Like how much more would we be paying?
Well, your two highest employees aren't going to see a benefit from this resolution. So the amount of money budgeted will cover what this cost is, because we budgeted for 4% increase across the board. We also budgeted for certification pay. And since the two highest paid employees, myself and the police chief, does not change anything at all, it's within our budget.
Sure, but let's just assume that in 6 years you might be moving on to something else. Hopefully another job or retiring, not being passed away or anything.
Sorry.
Sorry, this is not humor. I'm sorry. At that point, I mean, I guess I'm coming from the perspective of a teacher where some districts do the match and some don't. And that's just the thing that some do and some don't. Employees have to make that decision whether or not they want to work for that. I want to make sure that we are being fiscally responsible to the city. So let's assume we did have to pay your guys' PERS. What would be the financial impact?
If we do not pass the resolution, then we need to go back and discuss with our employees about what the annual COLA is for the year.
Yeah.
And that's an open-ended question. We budgeted for 4, but what it is has not been determined. This was seen as a better move than trying to figure that particular figure out.
The PERS work the same way as like a fitness putting in for 401k, where if you put in a certain amount, then there's a different.
That was my question. We included 3% and 2%.
It's a little bit different because it's not based upon a match at all. Essentially, when they made the changes in the mid-80s requiring employees to pay, it was a 6% across the board. And then when, recession hit in the late 80s, instead of COLAs, the state at that point also went to paying the PERS instead of doing COLAs. So there is no reciprocity of the amount of increase and the amount in which the employee pays. It was an arbitrary 6% that was set by the legislature at one point.
There's things like that because of that. So the COLA being.
So that's the 6%. So it's
But the 6% is ongoing, and next year the COLA will go into effect again. Not that I'm saying we shouldn't pay their PERS, I think we should. That's just fine.
And to be clear, let me finish this correctly as well. Some of our employees are currently having it paid and some are not. Is that what you said initially?
What I said initially is that we have 3 employees that are having it paid, we have 2 employees that we provided 6% increases to their compensation when they reach their 6th month of employment, which is when they qualify for PERS. And then we had, 12 minus, then we had about 4 employees that we are paying for, 5 employees, 4 employees. 4 employees we didn't pay for, 2 employees that we gave 6% increases for, and the 3 union employees get paid for already.
So what I'm really hearing.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did. And what I'm really hearing more than anything is we're super inconsistent. Is put us a consistency where everybody's consistent, correct?
Absolutely, and that was the heart and my intent of doing this, is to make things more consistent for all employees across the board and not have it based upon who it's ever doing the hiring that week.
Quick question. So are we going to the people that got the 6% increase to cover? Is that gonna go? That, okay.
Discussed.
Right, yeah. People even get paid more anyways, so I don't have a problem with that. But again, it's not all my money.
I know, it's just sort of-
Please, sorry.
Everybody get more money.
They should. Anywho, shut up.
At this point, I would, propose to make a motion to approve resolution 25011.
And I am going to second that with the rationale that we need to be consistent. And whether or not we made a mistake with 6% before, we need to fix this so it is consistent.
And if it passes, this will go into the employee handbook. All right, we have a motion and a second. Let's take a vote. Please, roll call. Let's do a roll call vote. Councilwoman Geddes.
I,
Councilwoman Wright.
Aye.
Council President Wright.
Aye.
And Councilman Geddes.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Second item, new business, is introduction and review, recommended increase of land use and planning fees for a public hearing to be held at the September City Council meeting.
Mr. Mayor and Council, you should find in your packet a chart that has a staff report, I think on the page before it, or the page after. Since 2018, we have changed 3 of those fees. Last time that we did a complete look at our fees was in 2015. Now, this proposal is based upon the concept that we want our fees and permits to be revenue neutral. We don't want to make money off them, but we also want them to pay for the costs involved. We have a contracted city planner. We have a contracted city attorney. We have a contracted city engineer. They all generate expenses as it relates to permits and planning actions. What is before you is a recommendation based upon a study of not only our actual fees, but a comparison of other cities within the COG membership are similar size. What I am asking of council is no action tonight. I just want to introduce this to you, have you be aware of it. And what I would like to do is have a public hearing. Now, for a vast majority of these fees, there's no public hearing required. There is for a couple, or more land use. But I am suggesting that we have a publicized public hearing next month to allow people to come and share their concerns. And I'm asking the council to start looking at this now as a consideration and provide with questions or conversations or issues. But we are
Fantastic.
Um, But on number 21, 22, or 20, information on no action is requested over, but this was a correspondence that we discussed last month. Which I had not received the letter yet on, but, I just wanted to get to the council as we talked about what was going on as it relates to our court fee, bond fees, and so it's purely information.
Remind me tomorrow and I'll get set up for emails here. I don't know if everybody else, on the council knows, but we also received an email from these Willamette Valley council governments that they're supposed to start building for this 10%.
question to the application form. Yeah, can we add that question?
Is that applicable to, I mean, that's applicable for this position, but considering that this form has been used for not just that, but also city council positions and something else, I don't know if that's something that would be appropriate in that case. Because the one that I'm sorry, I thumbed off it, sorry, but the one that Preston created was for city council, budget committee, planning commission, and community events. It's a four thing you're applying for, you can pick which one. So I don't know if you want resident on there for that, and that could just be a disqualifier through the interview process. You could add it as well if you want to, say.
Used to me, it was the same as the capital, we had to live here for a year. Never, at least 1 year.
And I would advise that I typically call the county elections a couple days before the council meeting to interview candidates, check on voter registration. I did for all those that we appointed to council as well.
Thank you.
Now, do we need to take a vote on this or just consensus? So we're talking about spending some money.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you need a motion.
We need a motion on this.
It's consensus, fine.
I just consensus that it's okay for me to proceed.
Consensus.
It's fine.
Wonderful.
Everybody agrees?
Yes.
Six. Yeah. I guess I'm another one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Next page. Item F is going to be future agenda items, update and modifications of list.
On the bottom of your agenda, if you look at your actual council agenda this evening, we've had a history of having future agenda items listed. Since I've been here, we've never updated it. Since I've been here, I've crossed out a couple at the meetings in which we were talking about them, so they didn't appear on the agenda twice. But we haven't really visited it. This is a great tool. I mean, I think it's fantastic that, you know, the council wants to look ahead. You want to think about what else is out there. What is it we want to have staff prepare us for? And we have not done anything with that section of the agenda, I believe, this year. This evening, I'm asking us to take the time to go through that list, cross out the stuff that doesn't make sense, add the stuff that you want to see happen, and let's actually use that list as a tool of moving forward. A couple of them, quite honestly, I couldn't tell you what they mean that are on there. A couple of them are outdated. So I'm asking for council direction and guidance as to what you wish to see listed as future agenda items on the council agenda. And allow me the freedom to update your list.
My immediate question, and this is for you, and I think it's probably going to be answered because I haven't been to more to talk about, is I don't know personally what is appropriate to be put here for a whole council meeting, and what's appropriate for me to talk to city manager and then see if it's an issue that needs to be brought to council. So there's some things at the top of my head, such as the issues that the lady brought up, which I'm like, should we put this in a council meeting, or is it something I talk to my city manager first and then see if we can resolve it that way, and if not, then we put it on this list. And I guess I'm a little foggy on where that line is.
And so when it comes to policy or ordinance, you should think about a council agenda. And if it comes to administering something that already exists, and having to change something that needs to be administered, you should put it on the city manager's list. So if you want to have a conversation about tightening the ordinance about fireworks, then let's get it on the list. And the council wants to, all the staff will do the research, and at a future council meeting, we'll have a look at examples of different cities and what they have for firework ordinances. And we'll figure out what's best for us. If it's something that has to do with discussion of the activity tracker report, which I do not know what that is, then, you know, say city manager, take it off. We don't know what it is. You don't know what it is. Don't worry about it. You know, why we have review of bill list for 23, 24. Why grant reports are on here, I don't know. That's usually a staff report type function. So I would ask respectfully that the council think about what kind of policy stuff they would like to see addressed in the next 6 months. We've got fireworks, we've got crosswalks, we've got traffic patterns. What else is out there that we would like to see a future policy related discussion held by our council?
So I'm gonna ask a question. It's for you and for the chief. And again, I was looking at something in the police report. Through our community, and I've heard that as well again tonight, there's been some concerns about coverage. And actually, that is what the activity report was about, I'm pretty sure. Because I had brought up to Chief West a lack of coverage compared to the amount of call volume we had. And that was happening during Mr. Preston Polsa. And I thought they were going to get back to me, and I think that then Mr. Chief West will leave. So I think that's why that's still there. And it feels like I've heard more and more throughout the last month that there's a concern about the lack of coverage we have, especially considering we have an extra officer now. It feels like the coverage has not come. Now that's anecdotal. I don't know if that's the case. That's a conversation I probably have with the chief and with you. But I do feel like the sentiment is it's not happening. I don't know if that's appropriate for this. But that's a conversation to have privately. You guys can help me out with that. Is that appropriate for this, or is it?
Well, I would suggest we have a conversation first, and then we'll decide whether or not we want to bring it to council.
Sounds great. But that's what the activity tracker is for. That's what that was.
Well, I was gonna say, the activity tracker, I don't know if you guys have had any goal settings, but we used to do the goal setting meetings, and then, you know, we would prioritize them. Then when leadership changed, they didn't see things being done, so they started an activity tracker to follow through and make sure that things were being done.
I'm not seeing anything on here really myself. Something we need to keep on updates from the school district we're gonna get. That's a nice board meeting. Grant reports. You haven't seen any grant reports lately, and anytime you're going out to find them, let us know what to catch them anyways.
I would think the grant reports, from my perspective, would be a level of holding ourselves accountable if we're looking for them or not. Like, I haven't heard any grant reports we've been looking for, but yeah, I know we have a water report here that might recommend. We might want to start trying to see what we can find. I don't necessarily think it needs to be on here per se, but I do think this needs to be the zeitgeist that we're thinking about.
I do like having the future agenda items, or I agree with Rick that it's a good tool. It helps us clarify direction. So yeah, it would be more of the things that we're already kind of focusing on and making sure that they're just listed out for us. Like, hey, reminder, we have land use things that we're working on. We have school board collaboration that we're working on, as well as making sure that we're prepping for the future of growth with our utilities. I feel like those are kind of the three that we can, and then in ordinances, how are we going to enforce ordinances? I think those are the four kind of main, correct?
So if we were to go through this list right now, I mean, Mr. Lombardi's crossed off work session goals and setting, so we already have that plan. Discussion on training sessions, already have to just cross it out. Suppose your joint session, which we just talked about. Are you saying you still want those on there, or do you want them? Because we already have a plan set for it to do that.
I'm saying that the things we are gonna plan for, we just keep them on there, right? I mean, why we're doing them, we already have plans.
I think that's what we're getting at. I mean, everything on this future agenda right now, is the top one. Community communication plan. I mean, we know we need to get the public more involved. We need to open communication somehow. We're trying different avenues. You know, that's important. I think that's a continual improvement opportunity right there. Not really just something for a future agenda, something you continue to do. I'm not seeing anything on here really that's a future agenda right now.
Well, I guess to push back a bit, when you tell me we already have a plan for something, I don't think it needs to be listed because we have a plan in action, so you can just remove it. Like, if we go through this work session with the school district, and it's like, oh, we got nothing done, we need to revisit it, then we put it back on, and like, this wasn't successful. Say the budget, it's already got a plan for, we should probably remove it. A review budget bill list, 2023-24, new date, probably remove it. Actively looking for grants, I would like to see it, what we can do there. Like, I do want that. Yeah, I want to see if there's anything available. And if Rick goes, hey, there's nothing, then we can remove it. We are holding ourselves accountable. This is something that we need to work on that we haven't done. That's the way I see this. If I'm seeing it incorrectly, he's correct. You know?
Well, I understand that a little bit too, but what I'm seeing is anything listed here is for a future, something we're going to talk about later on. I think grants are so important, they should be continually looked at throughout the year. It should be just like our communication efforts with the residents. It should be a continual thing and not just something we plan on later on, something we do every single time we get together if we can.
Well, I think when you look at this, you say, okay, when we look at the future, again, like, have we touched base on this today? That's why I'm saying, like, some of these are already dead. Not dead, that's terrible phrase. I don't know, I'm being so morbid today. But just already in process, we can remove them. But like, since we have been on council since January, I'm not aware of this actively seeking for grants. And they may have been happening. I don't, did we?
Did, when the people told us about, the property stuff.
Right.
Not the last council.
Was that us actively looking on it, or is that something it started before? And then we were taking it?
They wanted us to approve it.
Right, which means it was already an action before, correct?
No, because we didn't approve it. So they were telling us about it, then we had to say, yes, we want to do this, or no, we don't want to do this.
And that was us going out to find them or them finding us?
That was him finding them to tell us.
Yeah, Christmas. Excellent. I'm a shit.
So we are, but I don't think we should necessarily take that off the future, because we do want to continue to look for grants for the city.
I think I've received enough consensus and direction here. I'm ready to move on with councils. I'm just saying that it's been on our agenda. We haven't touched it, we haven't talked about it. Not probably this time. We come to some kind of understanding and moving forward. I thank you for your time.
And we done
All right, next item on the agenda is plans for August 21st work session.
We're planning some kind of training event on the 21st. There's a video option. I want to look at some more material that the council president shared. We might do something with that. But also, one of the things that I want to do that evening is talk about composition of the survey. Keep in mind, we want to send out a survey on our goals on September 6th. So this work session on the 21st, I think we want to dedicate a little bit about, and I won't come with a clean slate, I'll come with some ideas, but we do want to put together what are the questions that we want to ask and how do we want to ask them. That will be a part of it. But I've got a video lined up that is Plan B. Plan A is some of the stuff that Council President Wright has shared with us. But also 1/3 of the time I want to spend looking on the survey. So we are asking our citizens the questions that we want to ask that need to go out on September 6th. So that's my plan for August 21st training event, but it's your training event. So if you've got other ideas or concerns, I want to give you the opportunity to provide.
As far as I'm concerned, any opportunity for training is good. every time you learn something new.
See you on the 21st.
Kind of, is it an LLC video? Is that what you're talking about?
And now what time was the first?
I'm sorry.
Okay, Laura,
We're doing it at 7. Normal time.
you get that? I'll see you later. Is that okay? I wasn't here.
All right, no further discussions on that. We'll move on to H. Water system pump replacement project, information update and potential council action.
Well, I included a kind of a brief summary of the situation that's been ongoing for several years at this point. It's kind of been kicked down the road with a lot of leadership changes on the Wayne side. Kind of getting to be more of a pressing item here. For example, I've spent several nights here late observing the performance of the water plant. And the size of pumps that are in there have not been upsized since the plant was online in 1991. Aside from a very smallest pump being upsized when it experienced an issue needed to be replaced from a 5 force to a 7.5 force. Basically what that means is the entire system pressure is dropping. The pumps are moving water as fast as they can. At the same time, though, the set points, the target pressure for the city is around 70 psi. During peak hours, specifically on warmer days, hot days, late at night, watering the lawn, showering, doing dishes, everything, as well as in the morning, getting ready for work. Places a tremendous demand on those pumps. What's been happening is when the two duty pumps are not able to keep up with that demand, which is what they're designed to do, we have a very large fire flow pump that is only designed to come on during hydrant flushing or fire events where hydrants open up. So that is being used to supplement the lack of performance of the undersized duty pumps. This is something that was pointed out in the master plan. I believe it was renewed in 2019 to upsize both the duty pumps to larger. Financially, that's probably not something to do right at this time to upgrade all 3 plants. It is currently in engineering. Once that's engineered, it's would be considered like a shovel-ready job, so grants could be pursued at that point. But there's been a couple of missed opportunities because the project's not engineered as far as grants. So once that's completed, we can pursue that to do the larger project. Consulting with our engineer, as well as other operators around, it's kind of looking like the best course of action would be to replace our medium-sized duty pump with a larger pump on a variable frequency drive. And I don't know if anyone's familiar with that, but that allows you to install a larger pump, but it controls the frequency of the electricity and it'll actually throttle the pump down. So if you can act like a smaller pump more times, and then as demand goes up to maintain a steady pressure, it will increase up to its maximum output. So I have been obtaining quotes. I was hoping to have some part numbers by this evening. I received a second one earlier today, but without 3 competitive bids, and I'll disclose the totals. So we're waiting a third one at least. But to upgrade the pump, there's some piping that needs to be addressed, electrical work, as well as the variable frequency drive. Speaking with engineers, between $35,000 to $50,000, probably closer right smack dab in the middle. But this would allow us to delay the larger project of replacing the pumping system of the water plant potentially for several years, which that project in the, I believe in the 2019 estimate was close to 900,000. So inflation would make us give a top limit. So that would allow us to kick the can down the road further. But it's something that still needs to be addressed sooner rather than later. By upsizing the pump, it would allow for more growth. At this point in time, we're able to maintain all legal pressures. The pressure's never gone down below any kind of legal threshold. Yeah. Even if another larger apartment complex came online, it would place that type of demand, but the overall performance of the city is not working as it's designed. For an example, our pressure should never drop below 60 psi under normal use. These two pumps that are designed to supply the water to the whole city, they're holding about 5 to 6 psi below that threshold on average at the lower end. So I don't know if you read the report. I can read it. We'll just kind of touch the bases, but I imagine you have questions.
So since the fire one kicks in, how much wear and tear is it doing on that one that the city would have to, does that make sense? How much of the compensation that it's doing, how much damage is it doing to that by making it do that?
The large fire flow pump, see how I know the phrases. The large fire flow pump is on what's called a soft start. It's such a large pump where if you were to fire it up, like a light switch, it can send out water hammers throughout the system, which can burst pipes or plumbing in residential homes. And then at the same time, when it shuts off, that same effect. So it's on what's considered a soft start. It modifies the way it ramps up to full speed. Each time it does that, it builds up more heat than typically would. You could just turn it on and off. So in order to maintain this constant pressure when it's on and off, it actually runs at a much higher temp than it's designed to. So
that's why its fan is going down.
It is a very low hour pump, but it should not by design ever come on. So it is already outside its design parameters.
How will we pay for this stuff other than grants just raising water bills?
Well, we have funds in our water reserve fund which we would draw from. However, about 40 or 50% of the cost can be funded from system development charges because we are increasing the capacity of our system. And since we are increasing the capacity of our system, which is what system development funds are all about, we can probably fund a percentage, and that again will be determined by the engineers as to how much it is of the change of the cost is based for operation and how much of it is based upon future capacity. So I would expect that almost half of the cost could be paid from out of the water system development funds, which is another fund where there's no money to take care of.
But we have to get the engineers first to look at it and to select them, right?
The engineers would tell us how much of it is about capacity, how much of it is about, and we're going to estimate how much we can answer your question.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, and this would just cover the single pump to get us on track, right?
No, we had the other ones, it was like $1 million or something like that, wasn't it?
Correct. In discussion tonight is basically a patch to buy us more time, would be to replace it's currently a 15 horsepower pump, upsize it to the specified flow rate that the engineers spec out in our master plan. So each company submitting a bid, they determine the actual horsepower curves that'll match that flow. So the actual horsepower can vary from one pump to another, but it is addressing just that one for that price that I said.
If you were to replace the whole thing, yeah.
That's a very, very
Right.
large upgrade project. That is.
But that's where you would get all the, that's where you get all the grants or the water improvement from, so we still want to be liable for half of it. You hope, yes, if all went well, okay.
So let's assume it's a terrible thing to do. They eventually do this major upgrade eventually. This pump that we're paying partial thing for right now to put out as a Band-Aid until we do that. Would that then be obsolete or would it also be part of the next big project? Would it be benefit? Are we stopping at Band-Aid hours? I'm really asking.
No, this pump was actually cherry picked from the overall brand design of all, so it would be used in conjunction during that upgrade, and it would reduce the overall cost of that project by that same.
I can't. I do. I like to.
I think it's a great idea. It's needed, so.
Do we need actions for this?
From us.
What do I ask for consensus?
Well, after we get the numbers, right?
Well, there's two ways to go with this, and one is that, you know, you're up to speed, you have an idea of what we're talking about, and we come back to you when we have all the data. Or in the middle of the night, on a very hot day in August, we're all in here to approve it because we have a broken pump. So your two options, as I see it, is either A, feel informed and a part of the decision making, and expect to make a decision down the road, or B, authorize up to a certain amount of money for the city manager to be authorized to spend up to, my suggestion would be 50,000 to replace the pump. That will be a part of the future project. Those are your two options. It depends on how close you wish to be involved in the need of the decision making and how you feel about your staff proceeding on this current need as defined by the action.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve rent spend $15,000 to replace the pump. I have a lot of faith in Kyle.
I'll second.
What a motion a second. All right, consensus vote, all those approved?
Could we have a repeat of the motion, please?
Yeah, I made a motion to approve the spend of $50,000 to replace the pump. And I want to make sure you put in notes, I have a lot of faith in Kyle.
Someone goes, Kyle.
And I second.
Any other questions that you have with staff in this regard?
What is the max flow capacity of the variable, whatever?
This feels so much confidence. Thank you.
To touch on that, basically what we're looking is upgrading I believe it was rated at 175 gallon a minute. We're replacing with a 450 gallon. So it'd be up to 450 gallons a minute. But in times lower demand with the variable frequency driver, it can lower it down, give or take down almost to about 100 gallons. So it acts like a second pump.
And so that keeps it from cycling on and off like the issue.
This is what we have to do.
Yeah. Hey, you don't want me doing that.
All right, there was a motion a second, want to take a vote on? To approve it? Let's do a consensus vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All rise, there are no nays.
Thank you, council. I would say it was a wise decision based upon the presence of the expert being in the room at the time. Because I knew you had questions that our city attorney could not answer.
I think we should stop this.
That's appropriate.
Can you smile for this young lady, please, Mr. Mayor? She's been trying to.
I don't know how to smile.
Told you. You should.
Okay, next item, please. LOC conference planning registration is open.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I'm aware of two of you planning on attending the conference. I've not heard from anybody else on the council interested. We do have $3,000 budgeted for council training. Not that we want to spend it all, just because we have budgeted. But I've not heard any interest from anybody else going. Registration has opened. We got scholarships for our two centerpieces. And so if anybody else wants to go, I guess I'm saying, let me know. Let me provide what you want. The new schedule for this year's conference is in the council packet. It's out there, and registration has opened. There's like a 15% discount if you register before September 15th or something like that. So, you know, this isn't rush, but I would like to hear from each individual which way they're leaning so we can plan accordingly.
Yeah, I'll address that for myself personally. I would love to go. I am a teacher. I can't associate the school out here.
Perfectly understandable. I'm just trying to check all the boxes.
I can address mine now too, I guess. I'm also a teacher's assistant in a FLC classroom, and I cannot miss. I'm sorry.
I guess I will too. That's blackout time for Windows.
You can tell us not how to take it off.
We'll take lots of notes for you guys.
Thank you.
But then I have a request for the three of you.
3 days?
Since you guys can't make it to the LOC conference, could you all make sure to be at the open house ceremony for the fire department Friday night?
Yes.
Yeah, the two things are fine. I mean, versus blackout, you can't control, but as educators, it's really, really, really hard to take days off. But the evening, absolutely, yes, sir. I feel like I'm blackmailed, but yes.
There's no way to go to
I just want to make sure we have supportive representation from the council.
Are you sure? Oh, okay. So if we would go on, like,
Schedule.
maybe go on one day, the
Oh.
Saturday. But I don't know if they're doing
There
anything.
are some days that are day holding type.
I think it's Saturday in the morning. Yeah.
So it might
I
be-
cannot just work out happy.
I went to 8 of them and none of them repeated themselves. They are strongly, so helpful. I can tell you.
Well, they have hot dogs. Earrings and games.
Thank you.
Yeah, as soon as we noticed that the grand opening on the same day as the
I
LOC
yelled at
conference in
him.
Portland, it was like, no.
It's okay, I'll be.
I'm just asking, you know, let me know, let me help you, let me help you. Let me help you get situated away if you want to go. If there's a particular day, let me know, let me see what I can work out.
I am kind of interested in taking one extra workshop that would cost $100, and I can email you that.
There's a couple of them that I think would be good for you to go to, and I recommend you go to, quite honestly. I did a list of,
You
did
did.
that only go to the mayor, or did that go there?
I think you went to everything.
It went to everybody. I'm taking the ones you suggested. I appreciate that.
There's a couple of great ones in there on community conflict type stuff that I think would be.
Yeah, I was looking at the counselor's workshop and then possibly a tour for one of the Gresham. Gresham is interesting and they have a community that speaks over 85 different languages. So I thought that might be a good idea for me to tour that community so I could learn how they are developing that area in conjunction with their diversity.
Just out of curiosity, he recommended the one on Friday 3 to 4 where you evaluate your city managers. Just want to make sure.
Yeah. You recommended that?
Oh, okay.
Well, thank you very much for that. Next item on the agenda is actually our staff reports. So please start with the city manager.
Mr. Mayor and Council, you have a written report in your council packet. The only thing beyond that I would want to share is that we have tentatively set the council goal setting session to be a Saturday, October 18th. Now, that's going to be a major conflict or a major issue. We sort of need to know if there's any hunters or bull people or whatever. But the facilitator would prefer to do a Saturday morning rather than evening. And we're talking 3 hours on Saturday, October 18th. And so it's sort of a critical day. It's sort of an important day. We should like to have everybody there. we can change it if we have enough time to change it. But I am asking that you look at your calendars and consult and confirm. Other than that, you have my written report, and I have nothing else to add, but I would be happy to respond to any inquiries or questions.
There may be a time for that, 18th, which I didn't want to do it. Did they give a time for the 18th, what times they want to?
We're talking 3 hours, so I think we're probably talking 9 to noon.
I've got to check with my calendar.
You're good.
Calendar, thank you.
Cities in Florida.
I have no conflicts that day. It's on my calendar.
For me.
I'm sure I have conflicts, but I'm trying to make it work.
I wasn't paying attention, I was reading about your alcohol consumption. And I wasn't paying attention. No, it's good. It's just, I'm supposed to spend money if you're buying should be scared of alcohol.
I know, I
Yes.
was excited.
I was like,
about
what?
that. That
Yes,
was for
I
us.
remember that actually. I was like.
And unfortunately, while we were unloading it, because only my department heads and I could be trusted to unload it, I dropped a box of Kahlua on my foot and had to fill out an accident report. At one time in my life, I was city manager in a small Alaskan native village that had passed a resolution about alcohol, that alcohol would be allowed after being a dry town for about 7 years. But the condition was that there'd only be one place to purchase it. The city would run the liquor store, own the liquor store, staff the liquor store. So my job was to get up and running a liquor store. We get 3 barges a year because of the ice fields. I had to order 3 connexes of alcohol, which totaled $80,000. My spending limit was 50. So I had to call a special counsel.
I thought I had made something and I was like, what the heck? I was like, we're gonna have a liquor store? Not that I drink.
But the funny thing about it was that the only place that they could put it was in the holding cell there at City Hall. And so, because it already had the cameras and all of that,
Jail.
so they called it Jailhouse Liquors.
Oh.
Any questions about my staff report before I pass the mic on over to the police chief? So,
I do have a question, Rick. Do you have any intent to make a plan for the city of Jervis to have a transportation system?
when we were talking about the crosswalks and the other items earlier today, I made myself a note saying, how would a transportation plan help us control traffic patterns and speeds? I don't know the answer to that question, but it's the question that crossed my mind that I want to have a conversation with our city planner about. Is if we did a transportation system plan, how would it help us control crosswalks and speed, as well as establish a street system development charge? Because we do not currently have a street system development charge.
Strongly in favor of all of this.
And I have a partial answer for you on that one too. So if I forget later on, loop me back and I'll get there. So good evening, Mayor, council members. I think it's my turn. I think the last time I saw you was when you were swearing me in, but the last time I was here. I've been on board now, I think, for a month and a half roughly. A couple of weeks here I had vacation that was pre-planned with kids, but back in it and at it. So I'm glad to be back. You have a report that's in front of you that outlines this past month here in regards to the officers' activities. And then I have some bullet points below that I'll discuss with you as well, but just do the fact online people, congratulations. And for others that don't have that report in front of them, I'll just speak those out. The calls for service over the past month, we had 128 calls for service. arrests were 4, traffic stops 13. Of those, we have citations and warnings that are issued, and that's about a 50% split in regards to the number of people that receive warnings versus citations. And with people that I've supervised in the past, that's fairly common and normal for the communities that I've worked with and the officers that I've supervised in the past. So I'm pleased with that. Agency assists, outside agency assists, this could be OSP, county, other surrounding cities. We have a total of 14 assists in regards to that. Critically important for us to do that due to the size of our agency. And what I mean by that is since we are a small agency, we're not a 24-hour operation, we rely a lot on these outside agencies to help us in regards to something there that you were talking about earlier, which is the importance of training. And training is critical for police continually. And we rely heavily on those other outside agencies to help us with training requirements that are required by the state, and also just enhanced training that we have to do in service throughout the world. So us being able to contribute and help them outside of our city limits when they're on calls for service is important. So I'm glad to see that we're helping them here in the past month 14 times, and I continue to hope to see that increase as often as we can help. City ordinance related cases that we have 7, and we closed out 3. We have 4 open cases of city ordinance related issues currently that are going on. Discussion points that are outside of what the officers information that you just heard of what they're doing. You'll see the first thing I talk about is that over this past month, I've been working on producing new job expectations and announcements in regards to for each of the positions. So just us realigning in regards to what it means to be a police officer, what those duties are, what the duties are specifically for a sergeant, what the duties and responsibilities are for the admin assistant / evidence technician, etc. So updating those. In some cases, we didn't have those in the past. And so these were from scratch to have to produce. With that said, I think it's a good segue into the aspects of, we were talking, I think there's a lot of discussion earlier, and I'll try to address some of it. I'll probably miss some too, so please loop me back if I miss some, so talking points you want to discuss. We were talking about just also that aspect of increasing by 1 officer. I look at that as currently you have 3 officers, and then you have myself as your chief. I'm not an officer, I'm your interim chief, and I'm the leadership of your agency. And I'm here as your interim, in essence, to really help restructure the police department, be able to bring it up to industry standards. And so in regards to that, I want there to be measured expectations in regards to what that is, and timelines also. Like I said, I've been here about a month and a half now. That time has been really a time for me to be able to, one, just get acclimated to the way this police department operates, the way our city operates. Be able to be part of 2 events now, special events, your July 4th festivities throughout that whole day and evening, as well as our national night out that we just had. So it is that time period for me to be able to start to see and understand what we're working with, and to see what things need to remain the same and what things need to be tweaked and changed. So that's kind of where I'm at currently in regards to that right now. But like I said, these things, and the city manager and I have talked about the importance of having job descriptions that are up to date and outline specifically what it is that we have as expectations as a leadership for the city of the people that work for us. And so these are some of the steps that we're doing. There's a lot of that work to be done. There's a lot of things that will require leadership analysis and looking at to be able to tweak, and that will take an extensive amount of time to do that. That said, I dovetail into wanting to talk about July 4th and the festivities that we had that day. My first experience being able to be here in your city and be able to experience that, hear a little bit ahead of time what it was potentially going to be like in regards to addressing, and thank you to the citizens that have talked about illegal fireworks. Hearing that in advance, what that was going to potentially be like, and then actually being able to see it for the first time and witness that firsthand, what that was like. For FYI, we did communications through Facebook, 2 communications so far. One was in advance of 4th of July in regards to the festivities and safety. And then we did the secondary one, which was one that was directly from me at the time of the fire that we had in regards to addressing the fire, which was related to fireworks. And we as the police department are well aware of the fact that there was claims of it being power line related, but like I said, through the investigation, we clearly understood that that's not the case, and it was fireworks based. But that was a interesting evening to watch and experience the positives as well as some of the negatives that existed for that. Just so you know, because like I said, when I saw you, I was getting sworn in, and I literally come from my other job straight here from Sherwood to here to be able to be with you. But in that time, the messaging that we had, or that I had with our officers, was that this year was going to be education in regards to what it is for our expectations moving forward. For me as a leader, it's, I'm sure you can imagine, political suicide, career suicide for me to come in and literally actually move straight into enforcement when I haven't really even seen the label. And it's important, my foundational belief is education before enforcement. There's circumstances where enforcement needs to be the first move, but I believe fundamentally that often education is the first move. So with that in place, the direction that I provided to the officers for that evening was that if we had illegal fireworks, it was to be an education and an understanding to those citizens that are doing those, that when we thought that happening, we were able to address it, for people to be advised of what the laws are in regards to that. We are not knowing, but advise them of what it is, and advise them that moving forward, if it was to continue, then that would result in arrest. I want to be clear too on this, that in regards to fireworks, as far as I know, and I've been here half a second, so I may get some things wrong, but we do not have a fireworks ordinance in regards to our municipal code for us to be able to issue violations to it. We're strictly acting on the aspect of a hard case arrest, handcuffs, going to jail, criminal charges. So with that said, that is an action that we can go down. But like I said, this year's mantra was to educate those people that this is a crime, and moving forward, there could be criminal charges. To the point that we had some people that would say, when we addressed them with illegal fireworks, it'd be like, that's it, they're done, no more. And they'd be like, okay, we understand. But we have just one more, we'll just launch the one more, and then we'll be done. And the instructions to all officers were made very clear, and I was out there with them, and those instructions were, and I said them to people too, it was like, if you launch that, that will be a crime, you'll go to jail. So education only goes as far as someone's willing to be educated. So that was the mantra for that evening. And we've made it clear, and we've talked about since that day, and even before that, moving forward into the subsequent next year, that we would be doing more enforcement. That says, you noticed I said, I don't believe we have an ordinance that specifically addresses fireworks. I may be wrong, but as far as I know, we don't. I couldn't find it, but like I said, as you know, I'm half Canadian, so he went to Woodburn School, I went to a Canadian one, so I don't know, maybe I just couldn't find it. But with that said, it's something that an ordinance to that can be something for discussions at a later time. as you know, going from 0 to 60 isn't always the best thing either. Going from education to handcuffs isn't necessarily the best either. Sometimes an ordinance that has a financial sanction is a nice interim mid-step in regards to getting people to achieve muscle memory to the new way things are. That said, that was a long day for the officers that were here. We had the festival throughout the day, and then we rolled into the fireworks, and then for most that hopefully just, end of the evening there, we did not. We continued and worked in the wee hours of the morning, continuing to do 2-person patrols, myself with 1 officer and the other 2 officers in another car, and we were patrolling the streets until I can't remember now. It was like 1, 2 in the morning, where we were rolling around the city, and when we would see illegal fireworks go off, we would then try to go drive, locate where that was as they continue to go to then address that specifically. I want to be clear on that as well, because it's come up in some of the discussion earlier. In regards to dealing with this crime, we have to have probable cause. And to be able to have probable cause, I have to know specifically who's doing it, as opposed to just a maybe where. So there are challenges to it. There's obviously, and we feel as officers and myself as your interim chief, passionate about trying to address that issue aggressively. But sometimes, I won't say sometimes, a lot of times in law enforcement, we don't have enough probable cause to make an arrest. Not just in fireworks or that, but other crimes too. And we know or feel very confident that we may have our suspect in front of us. We don't have enough to be able to actually put it before the courts, before a lawyer, not a civil lawyer, but a criminal lawyer. But these are important things for us to be reminding ourselves of as a community, that the officers do work diligently, and when we are not in a education mode and we are in enforcement mode, we still have to achieve those benchmarks for a solid probable cause arrest. And that's challenging with firearms due to the fact that we will be seeing that and being identifying who they are. And when one goes off, and if another one doesn't go off, it's very difficult to get for the spot we have to. Not impossible, but that said, I'd also like to address that evening. I think we issued, I think, about 10 to 12 warnings of different groups that we were able to see them doing activity, get to them, meet with them, have conversations with them, give them verbal warnings of what could come. And that was after our fireworks show was done. Noise-related issues and the fire issue. I want to address that a little bit as well. So the fire issue, definitively a fireworks-related incident. At this time, we don't have probable cause to make any arrests in regards to that case, yet it is clearly understood it was a fireworks-related incident. Noise-related issues in regards to fireworks, again, something that's being addressed by the officers when we can, but this is also challenging. I want this to also be an opportunity to remember and for us to remind ourselves of what we're operating with. We have currently 3 officers that are working, and that is going down to 2 officers as of most likely next week. 1 officer will be going on light duty. So realistically, to be able to have services that meet the needs of our high call volume, which is typically call activity starts to increase at about 8 a.m. On average, and it peaks typically between 1 and 5 p.m. and then it drops off at about 11 p.m. Severely drops off. To be able to achieve the benchmarks of traffic enforcement during the day with crosswalks, or in a half second, we'll be back in school with kids and being able to be there for our kids in the day, while also trying to be there and address the issues that we have at night with noise complaints, etc. These are challenging, when you don't have 24-hour service. You know, realistically, we're talking 6 to 8 officers to get bare minimum 24-hour service to be able to have someone to be able to address noise issues at 11 or 12, 1 in the morning, and be able to be there for our kids as they walk in the door of the school, be there in the school zones, addressing those real important issues as well. So I bring that up just as something as a note of, I know it's obvious, but sometimes it's good for us to remind ourselves of those struggles. But they're doing their best they can in regards to that with the limited time we have. We're working on hiring to try to get additional officers on the road to be able to address with that since we have openings. Again, keep in mind that a typical police process for getting someone in the door, because our backgrounds and all our checks and our tests and the medicals that we have to do, all those things, coupled with the training that's required. If I get a lateral officer who already is an officer, I'm still looking at 6 months probably before I have that person solo status and actually being a +1 on the road for additional services to our community. If I can't get a quality lateral officer and I have to get someone who's brand new into law enforcement, and I have to get them through training and through the police academy, on average, 15 months. So we're currently, well, that's the way. That said, improving and leveling us up in regards to our skill sets is very important. And so also on the sheet here, you'll see that we've had Officer Navarro. We had him go off to training this past month here in regards to the system is called READ. It's a READ interview system that it's existed since I started in law enforcement 31 years ago. Very, very good in regards to developing excellent interview skills to be able to be a successful officer in regards to criminal investigation. So trying to level officers up in regards to their skill sets. Silverton did a active shooter training as well here just recently, just the other day, and we had 2 of our officers go to that as well. That's something that you need to do on a regular basis to try to keep the muscle memory up to how to deal with those large situations. Those large situations never go 100% by any way, shape, but these trainings definitely help improve the standard. So we sent 2 people to that as well. Transitioning in regards to work schedules, we are going to, due to the fact of the one person going to light duty, and then just having the other 2, we're going to be altering those schedules. As I said, the first month and a half has been observation for me to be able to see kind of how we do business here as a police agency. And we're now starting to shift into that where we'll start making some changes. And so we will be making changes to our shifts of those 2 officers. Again, it's going to be 2 officers that are on the road and the light duty person that would be in the office. So, and then the other big thing that I wanted to touch on here was just the last bullet point, which is citizens reporting of activity, criminal activity, code-related violations, noise violations, fireworks, all those things. It's the reminder I want to be there for our citizens is that the most successful route to getting police services is through the dispatch center. It is not through calling the police department front desk line. It is not through calling officers individually on their cell phones. They could be on vacation. They could be sick. They could be, I don't know, lots of things. The best successful way is to go through Willamette Valley Communication Center, so WVCC. And the phone number, I'm just going to say it, so it's on the record, so everyone can hopefully jot it down if they're listening online. The 503-588-5032 number. And the reason this is so important to utilize this number and to be able to call to that is because when anyone calls to that, even if they're anonymous, that registers in what we call our CAD. That call or that complaint or that criminal activity that they're seeing, it registers a whole data point in regards to the date, the time, and all the details of what's happened. And that gives us good tracking ability in regards to really what our criminal activity is. When we get calls just individually to officers on their phones or to the front desk of the police department, they're going to be redirected to tell those people, call the dispatch center so that you can attempt to get services. So just an important reminder. I'm sure there's lots of questions you have. I have a few other things just from points that we were talking about earlier that I can address real quickly. One, just want to say thank you for the information in regards to the speed issues on 3rd and that semi-truck issue. I'll obviously make note. I think it was lightly touched on earlier. As you know, as a police department, I don't have the authority to enforce any type of agreement or lack there, or even a ironclad agreement between Amazon or any other business or anything in regards to their patterns, unless there are truck route related type rules and regulations of a truck route, and a truck route being inside of a truck being inside of a residential area. To also touch on the aspect of the catastrophic loss of life that we had on that traffic crash that we were talking about earlier. As that discussion point was up and you were discussing things in regards to how to address that, some things that I jotted down was that I believe ODOT, don't hold me to this, but I believe ODOT, when crashes happen at intersections, when crash and fatalities happen, there's analysis that's done that starts to look at where it's like this intersection is becoming a bright line area in regards to injury accidents, and fatalities get analyzed in regards to signage, other things in regards to, is there things that need to be addressed at the state level down to the county level. So I throw that out just as a talking point because I know there's a lot of discussion in regards to how do we address that. Just wanted to put it out there that there is that piece that exists in the background. It's just not out in the forefront. I think that's all I have. But you may have lots of questions. So if you do, please let me try to help in any way possible.
I kind of have one, it's been kind of like broadcasted on Facebook and whatnot about the lack of seeing officers and whatnot. And I get that we're going to be lowering some of our things due to light duty and whatnot. But is there like, I'm bringing forward like maybe like a seasonal operation, like 4th of July was, we needed more officers during certain times. Is there a way to extend some hours, cut back some hours? Like, is there a way to like show better police force with what officers we have besides just trying to add more to our budget if we could allow it to add to our budget? I know talks, this was like last year sometime, about even like staging a police car with a skeleton in it in some areas to make people slow down. Is that still a possibility for some things to happen? That would scare people, actually, I'm sure. But definitely the speeding issue, because I remember when I moved to Jervis, I was like, what is this? It's the signs. And I guess it's county roads, 25 on every entrance of town, but nothing in the middle. And we got pulled over, and luckily we got a warning, but the speed definitely is an issue. Even with the crosswalks having lights in front of the school, people still do run those at night. I've watched several kids after basketball practice hit those lights to cross the road and the cars just go flying by. Just, I guess, part of our communication with the school, not necessarily being active with the school, but knowing when sports events are happening and maybe getting an officer out front for those late night games, if that's an area to work in. I know during the daytime, they don't have like a teacher for the high school, middle school area crosswalk, but the elementary school they definitely have someone that crosses with the kids. But that's all I have to say about helping reboot the police force. Just seasonal times, Christmas, going into New Year's, that would be fireworks again, getting different seasons of police officers and times.
And to that point, I'll just address those ones to start. Good points. You know, looking, that's part of my job, right? Is as I start to get familiar with your city, to be able to see patterns of, like I said, special events, et cetera, to be able to say, okay, for those special events, can we have officers working overtime? Like you said, those are good ideas. I appreciate that we're thinking alike, right?
Okay.
Those are good. I have to balance that though, especially with a police force that is right now specifically light on person power, not to burn people out as well.
Yes.
We have an issue in regards to the fact that on call, we don't have 24-hour services. And so of the officers that we have, the interagency agreement that exists with the county is that they will come and serve as high priority calls, what we call priority 1 and 2 calls, so violent type calls. But in essence, we're having these 2 officers or 3 officers right now that are having to also be on call when they're off duty. So they're working their 10-hour shift and then they're at home on call, and they're also then going to potentially be receiving phone calls of those and having to come up for those. So I have to also manage. It's sometimes the idea is good, but there's these other influences I have to balance so that we don't lose the existing personnel that we have.
And that's great to know for the community as well.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
other things are happening that,
Yeah.
to make those things unfeasible at some points.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know,
Yeah.
that a give and take kind of situation.
yeah. And I've noticed that of the officers that we have, there's been a great response in regards to the fact that they want to try to be there. You know, they are saying, hey, are we okay to stay on overtime? Be able to work additional if we have an issue. And my answer to them on that has been just a recent of saying, yes, you can. At the same time, not a standing overtime where we're going to be working, you know, getting off at the end of their shift and continuing for another 3 hours, you know, within a matter of a couple of months that will be good at. But yes, all good things on that front. I'm trying to remember what other ideas you had there. I wrote down your special events idea for the school and find out those events and see if, for when we're working, if that's just something we have on their registry to be able to say, hey, that special event's occurring right now. And so that's somewhere I can apply focus to. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, and like home games for football, soccer, basketball, all those trafficking times, but there are away games too, and that's when I see the most, because I go up to pick up my daughter, and then the kids that do walk home, that's when you see them just fly by, even though the lights are flashing. The flights are there, just going, and they just drive by, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, she about got hit, or he about got hit. So just getting sports dates, I guess, would be good.
Yeah.
So you guys have an idea.
And that's the one I jotted in, so that when they are working, they can focus that locations instead of some other location. So it's a terrific idea. Yeah. I'll use this point too. It also goes to, I think, that question that came up earlier, and I just said in regards to speed enforcement data. There is technology that exists that I've employed in my past lives at other places, of technology that exists now where it will, through telematics, because as we all know, our phones, our vehicles are beaming stuff up to satellites constantly in regards to, you know, location, et cetera, and speeds. There's companies now that you can contract with that will literally take your entire city, and it will be able to tell you what the average mean speeds are on every single road within the entire 24-hour period. And not just for that 24 hours. It'll give us data on every single street, broken down into 2-hour increments over the past year. And so you can even take a segment of the road where someone says specifically in front of my house, and you can narrow that to be able to analyze that and see if that complaint is actually truly founded or not founded. And if it is founded, when the specific actual target time is for us to apply pressure to it if we have officers.
That was getting my next question is how can we best support you to meet those goals? And then also, if Rick was so kind as to maybe add this phone number into our next month's flyer, because we're gonna do those flyers every month, correct?
September 6th.
Quarterly, okay. That would be great for regional purposes.
Yeah, the first one we did, the first quarterly was kind of me, just an introduction of who I was and the philosophies. I'm sure moving forward, we'll have some other like enforcement things, education things. That's great.
So is there a shortage of being able to hire?
Yes, and this is statewide, if not nationally, right? As I say, as I explain it, we're no longer picking from a pool of people, we're picking from a puddle. And what I mean by that is it's just the volume of people that are applying to emergency services is substantially reduced. And so, you know, everyone's finding it. My past agencies, you're no different. There's real struggles to that. And you have to make yourself extremely marketable because it has gotten to that point where law enforcement has changed to realize that it is no longer just a matter of go out there and just do the job. We have to be marketable to what's going on in the industry right now. And some of those things are very outside the box from what law enforcement is used to. You know, there's respite type periods of time for people that work shift work to be able to have a small sleep period in the middle of the night because shift work is so damaging to the body. And there's so much studies now medically to what it does to officers. Sabbaticals that exist in private sector that now is moving into law enforcement and having workout facilities that are on site and these types of things. But it's become an extremely competitive market for all agencies to see who can have the next newest thing that will inspire someone to come to their agency because we're picking from, like I said, a puddle, not a pool.
Well, another thing, so in the past, when Chief Chase was here, he would actually patrol. And you would see him a lot in the community. That is not something that, I mean, you said you did it on 4th of July, but is that just not something that you foresee yourself doing or?
There is that. There are things that need to be, the ship needs to be righted in certain regards. There needs to be a change in regards to bringing some things here up to industry standard. And that will take an extensive amount of time in regards to processes that don't exist here. In regards to law enforcement that exists other places that need to be worked on. That will take a lot of time to go put in place. That said, traditionally the job of a chief, while being out there with your people is important from time to time, if I am out there as a patrol officer, I am not in the right, that's not the right swim lane. That's not the leadership role that your chief is, that you want to have for your chief. Your chief is there to be in a different role, which is often to be the guidance and the person who is trying to get these things that I'm telling you about, of like I just said about a system that exists for being able to see speeds on roads, or your special events where you had those anti-vehicle barriers to prevent vehicles coming through. In my past life, that's me writing those grants to be able to get those things. Can't do those things if I'm a patrol officer. They're two different functions, the leadership function and the patrol function, but you do want to be an engaged leader, but there is a break.
And then another thing, like, you know, in Woodburn, if you go through a stoplight or whatnot, they take a picture of your car and they send you a ticket. I did it with the Berlin, California stop one time. Like, can we do that on county roads for like putting cameras up for speed traps and stuff like that?
You can, there are companies that do that, that you can contract with.
They're private.
As a city, they're private. And then they put the camera system
And expensive?
into place. It's financially, no, not necessarily. There's a city windfall in regards to that. No, yeah, it financially pencils out often in regards to.
But that would also be able to catch speeders too, right? Not just
Correct.
people.
It'll
stopping.
do light violations at traffic lights and or speeders.
So that might be something to look into. So
Yeah, those are
let's
things
put
for
that.
other council meetings for you guys for discussions. But those are, again, large projects that require extensive amount of work. That's where you have your law enforcement leadership and your city actually having to work on those large contracts to do that type of stuff.
And there's grants for those things too, or no?
For the anti-vehicle barriers, yes. For that, no. But it's my experience from past life, it seems to be a financially viable program. They do analysis of your city streets and if it's going to be market favorable for the company and for the city.
Okay, so they share in the profits of the tickets,
Yes.
but that might also cut down on some of the overtime you have to pay the officers too for patrolling. So if you're doing just speed.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. If they do the analysis and they say this intersection or this specific spot, it would be financially viable and beneficial.
I just like to add that I think that we are blessed in a way to have even officers because like the city of Aurora doesn't have a police department at all. So they have to call the county every time something happens.
Well, I mean, that would be a super Debbie Downer here. First of all, like, one of the biggest concerns I've heard from people in town is this idea how much we pay for this money. Would we be better off contracting with Woodbury? That's a whole different conversation that I'm not even trying to have right now. You said you changed it, you need to drop job description for admin assistant, patrol officers, and patrol sergeant. You said some of them weren't existent before. Which ones were?
Patrol officer.
And how did that change for them?
I'd have to go line by line and like in regards to what we made on the tweaks on that one.
Okay. I think most of the people on this, well, now also, when Chief West was here, one of my biggest pushbacks was this concept that he kept on saying that like, oh, it dies down at night. Now, this chart I have here, please correct me if I'm wrong, there's not a key here like there usually is. Blue is call initiates and red is officer initiates, is that correct?
So yeah, blue would be people that are calling into dispatch calls for service, and the red would be self-initiated.
So according to this, and this was the same conversation I had with Chief West, we have 12 calls from constituents between the hours of 8 and 11, 13 officer initiated, but we also have the same exact volume, except one less officer initiated between 9 and midnight. This concept that we don't have people calling at night feels like a misnomer because people are calling, it's equal amounts according to the report. Is that true?
I don't know. I'm not sure if I understand your question or if it's a comment.
Well, you made the comment earlier that it really precipitously drops to 11. And here it says we had 6 calls from 9 to 10, 4 calls from 10 to 11, 2 calls from 12, and then 3 officer initiated from 9 to 10, 6 officer initiated from 10 to 11, 3 officer initiated from 11 to 12, which is 24 happening between 9 and 11, 9 and midnight, which if we get a call at 9 or 10 and someone's going home at 10, are they actually able to service that?
So 2 things. So yes, they can service the call at 9 p.m. If we have an officer on duty. Currently what I would call a swing shift or the evening shift officer, their shift goes until 10 p.m. As I said earlier, the shift's hours are being adjusted now that I've been here to be able to see kind of the way things are. Those are going to be adjusted to be slightly later. The second piece of your question, without doing the counting you're doing, I'm looking at more from, if we look from midnight until 8 a.m., you can see just from the lines on the diagram, call volume there looks low to me in comparison to what we have through from 8 a.m. through, well, 5 p.m. peak, but it seems to kind of drop off as we get closer to 9 p.m.-ish.
9 PM is your second highest volume.
9 PM is highest volume.
Second.
Oh,
highest.
sorry. Yep, sorry, looking at. At 10 PM. At 10 PM, it seems to start to drop off. But again, I think.
10 PM is your fifth highest.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 highest.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm on my one, I apologize.
Anyway, sorry, there was a question at the end.
It's not so much a question, but more a commentary, and I've heard this often, is that we don't have people who have problems late at night, we don't need coverage.
I don't. Yeah, sure, you bet.
And what I've heard is we have two main concerns right now, it's fire compliance and traffic. In traffic, I fully acknowledge that these hours are probably appropriate. Firework compliance, is not something we typically see at 1 o'clock in the afternoon or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And knowing that's an issue currently that we have going on the idea that people are going home at 10, feels like a missed opportunity. And I guess I'm even more concerned with this concept that you say that your job as the chief is to implement all these things. But if we don't have officers on the street to implement them, I'm concerned. I mean, look, as a council member, my job is to service our community. As our city manager's job, to service our community. Our community's been pretty vocal that they're not happy with our coverage. And I know that you're new here, but like, I feel like this has been said a couple of times today, and I've heard a lot of reasons why we can't do it. But I don't hear a lot of things saying, what I feel like I'm saying to our people who live here is, sorry, and that concerns me. Also concerns me the idea that you said, well, if we have enough accidents, ODOT will have a report. Like, should we wait until those accidents happen to start fixing things? Like, that terrifies me too. How many fatalities do we need before we start making some changes?
That is how ODOT works on ODOT roads.
Correct, but we have the ability to like make commentary, not just wait for someone else to die before we like try to do something.
So to address those points, so 2 things. One, my comment in regards to ODOT was not to say for you not to have opinion and or action in regards to what you want to do as a council. It was merely to provide additional information that there are some other things that go in the background due to the fact that you're saying, how do we figure out what it is that we should do and where we should do it, and how do we influence others outside of our city?
Well, one of our comments was we need more patrol out there. And what I've heard is that we don't do that because we have only 2 officers. And that when someone dies, I'm having a hard time saying, well, we have 2 officers and we're working on this project where it says how many people violate the thing, that we have these overarching systems we're trying to do, but we need to do better.
Well, how do we sweeten the pot to get more officers to want to actually work here also? Because again,
We partner with the academy as much as we possibly can. I mean, that's what they did here historically, and see what we can get people who are coming through the ranks and see if we can get them into our system. That's what they did for Chief West and Chief, oh my God, Chase, and prior to that, me as well.
And sorry, I couldn't hear the first part. What was it that they did?
They partnered with the academy for incoming people who are going through the program. That's what they said. I am not. Yes, sir.
I'm not sure I understand.
I believe, yeah,
Well,
they said that
they would work with people who are going through the program, so when they graduate, they need to have a job. Or they were trying to work them to get a job. Almost like a system where they said, hey, this is, I mean, look, we have people all the time who are going through college and you have people recruiting them as they're in their program. It's a recruiting process to the academy while they're still in the program. I think that's what they said they did. I don't know if that's factual. I wasn't part of that system, but I do know that was definitely said.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. To deal with colleges and be able to try to recruit from colleges, yes.
Police academies.
No, there's the state police academy and there's no recruiting ability. You have to be hired by a city to be there. So, but they may have been referencing like the marketing aspect of colleges and trying to get people that are graduating from law enforcement, I think it's from college. But yeah.
It wasn't necessarily, sorry, Chief, it wasn't necessarily from colleges. It wasn't from the academy itself. But what they were doing was, I mean, this goes way back to Chief Spirit, Chief Johnson. They were bringing in officers that hadn't completed the academies, but they were bringing them in and they would spend the first, what was it, 6.5 to 12 weeks doing ride-alongs and doing all of their training with another officer until they did get their, the requirements met.
Oh,
They
until
would
until they
come,
went to the academy.
yes, and then they would
Yes.
come in and we would hold on to those officers, but obviously we're not big enough, so we kind of build them up and then they kind of.
Yeah, it doesn't really happen that way. The only way that happens is where we actually hire a person as a police officer, and before they go to their academy date that they're slotted into, we kick them off into the field training process.
Yeah.
So there's that, but they're hired on as a police officer. To address the issue of not happy with our coverage, that may be something to address at some time in regards to how you see that looking. If you have specific ideas, very open to listening to what your thoughts are on that. That said, though, I did, as I said, articulate that now that I've been here and being able to see things for a month and a half, I'm able to see where I'm wanting to tweak the hours already. So that process is already underway. In regards to what that looks like. The last piece to that is also keep in mind that there is a union in regards to what it is in regards to the staffing of what their shifts will be, and the rules that go with that. In regards to tweaking and changing your shift.
But to be clear, that you see this as an opportunity for them to tweak their shifts and not for you to do more coverage. Not for you to do more patrol. You see that's an issue for them to fix, and you're gonna stay high level and oversee.
That is my job, yes.
Okay.
And to be clear, that's what's needed for this agency, and that's what has not necessarily existed, and that has been the deficiency that has existed. And that's what needs to be rectified.
Nothing more? Kyle, I know you discussed about the water pump. Do you still have anything else to say?
Pretty hard to follow that. Very thorough. Yeah, just another thing on the water plant. We did have an issue with a transducer, typically not really a wear and tear part. For some reason, our water likes to interact with the particular style that has been in use, so we always keep the spare on hand. It was changed out, and it functioned, and had a company come out and do the final calibrations the next day. But that was another late night. We've had a few of them this month, but it's kind of typical this time of year.
What does the transducer do?
Transducer. Sorry. It detects the actual system pressure of the outgoing, what's considered the entry point to the distribution system. So it controls the pumps coming on and off. It's kind of just the sensor that sends the signals. Then touch bases, two, bigger construction projects in town. The apartments next door here to City Hall, they had some conflicts with existing utilities versus utilities needing constructed. This has created some delays and slight changes to their plans. Delays as far as paving goes, they need to be installed underground before that could proceed. Benefit to the city is much more of the existing sidewalk needed replaced, or I should say removed, so therefore will be replaced with new sidewalk at the village expense. Basically, almost all underground utilities are done over on the Alder Street project. They're engineered today to go over some final concerns I had about the paving, elevations, and which way the water would flow. They anticipate doing that. I believe first part of next week, the curbing will be laid and paving soon follow. Another hot topic tonight was the fire that we had. The trees or arborvitaes that were damaged, they were on city property, but they had been planted and maintained throughout their life by the resident in the green space sidewalk. So there's no monetary cost to the city. They were removed for aesthetic purposes. There's one that we left there, see if it survives. If not, it will be removed as well. Water, again, this time of year, there's a lot of annual testing. We do our disinfection byproducts testing, which tend to show up in warmer months. They like the warmer temperatures. Got the results back from that. Basically, almost none detected on everything we test for, and go up below limits and things. So that's very good. We have our, about every 7 years, 7 to 9 years, there's a large set of tests that come through, and it's, arsenic, nitrates, radium, multiple different types of radium. So those things will be collected and recorded here. We have results back within a month. And it says on the report, the final item, 2 crew members have attended 2-day school, testing for some of the certifications. Wish them luck. And actually, my real final item, which wasn't on here, but 2 months ago, I was informed that I would be missing some time on medical leave. That hit a delay and has been rescheduled for a little bit this month. So have Joe filling in and basically running the show around here while I am anticipating that before the end of the year, much sooner. So that's all.
Because very capable and will train team.
Good night.
Thank you, Kyle. We wish you well.
Anything on the check register if the council wants to discuss?
Sounds stupid, but I don't know what my bridge team is. Thank you. I didn't even know what my bridge team was. And then Tyler Technologies.
That's our software, that's our annual software fee for finance software. Annual software license fee,
So that's pretty average.
it's an annual fee, I got that book.
I'm just wondering if we should shop around, like, insurance.
My advice is no, it's such a pain to change the software. It takes
Yeah.
So much staff time.
I agree. I just meant company. I know software is very expensive, so. That was it for my questions on the budget.
Anything else from the council on the budget? So it's definitely the check register.
Okay,
Safe as workers' comp.
Okay, thank you. If nobody else says anything else.
I had one left, not for, I just had like a general, kind of. I know that just kind of going back, I know we did some thank yous on 4th of July, and I feel like we missed a couple people for 4th of July. I would just like to say a special thank you to Mickey Wagner, Cynthia Juarez, and Claire Jane. They all helped out extensively during 4th of July. We also have like some little junior members, like Junior and Straya. And also thank you to Chief. He's been very wet at both of our events, the 4th of July and the night out, National Night Out, I think was great. Thank you everybody for attending that. And thank you so much for Public Works. You guys are awesome. So I just want to make sure that everyone is appreciated. And well, thank you all.
Anything else from the council? Any council reports? And there's nothing from the mayor?
August 20th. I swear, I'm gonna put it, post it in your glasses.
You probably still missed.
All right, so real quick, yes, we have decided we have a movie night in the park, August 22nd, where we're trying to determine what children's movies we're gonna be. But let everybody know that at sunset, at the big park over here, everybody can show up. It's a free movie for everyone. Just bring your pillows and your blankets and sit down, bring the kids and enjoy yourself.
You said we use we.
We, as in him and I.
Yeah, I actually got the system and everything, so I like to go on to the presidents.
Yeah.
No, it's
Mary's
movie night in the
movie
park.
night in the
Forget
park.
the names, movie night in the park.
No, that's not the way.
All right. That being said, it is now 9:34 and we are adjourned.
That's such a long wait for the, okay. You know what?